Welcome, 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 my lovely people. So today we're going to be having a little conversation, an important conversation about the coaching industry. And this is going to be the coaching industry debunked. And what I mean by that is I'm going to shed some light into some of the rumors that you would have heard, some of the things that you might not have even known about, and just a little bit more about what goes on behind the scenes within the life coaching industry from someone who's been in it for around 7 years now. And I got some notes here to make sure that I cover all the right points.
I'm Raymond Taylor, and I'm going to show you how to build a coaching business from scratch.
So first of all, let me get a little bit of a boring bit out of the way. Coaching itself is asking thought-provoking questions. Now, you'll find that a lot of coaches online are actually consulting and mentoring people or training and giving advice. If these people are calling themselves coaches, they don't even know what coaching is. So that's the first one. The second one is, how do you get qualified? Now, this is a topic of debate by a lot of people, but the industry is unregulated, completely and entirely unregulated, always has been, and it is to this day. There's been some certain organizations, governing bodies, essentially businesses, not essentially businesses and charities that have formed their own alliance to try and create some kind of self-perceived competency level in order to maintain some quality in the industry. So it's a good thing. But the bad thing about it is a lot of the time they use manipulative language to make it seem like you have to use those people. You know, you must be accredited by this company or that company in order to be able to call yourself a legitimate coach. Now, that is not the case. Anybody with their God-given skills and abilities can become a coach. I would always recommend people do the coaching qualifications though, because it gives you the training. Right? It allows you to know how to help people, how to do those breakthroughs, how to shift those limiting beliefs, how to change someone's identity, how to remove or allow people to live with certain levels of emotion. These things are valuable that you can't just pick up through experience. You have to learn how to do them. So coaching qualification is necessary in order to be able to coach, but it's not necessary in order to legally be able to call yourself a coach. Cup of tea here. I want this one to be nice and informal so we can just have a bit of a chat. So another one is, qualifications mean that you're good at coaching. Not the case. In fact, sometimes I find it's the opposite. The problem with traditional coach training is it's very, very regimented, restrictive, and disciplined with pure coaching, which means that it's just about asking questions. They don't allow any other modalities to be used whatsoever. And in this current day and age, we have access to new techniques that weren't available back in the 80s when coaching was first starting to become popular. You know, we've got things like Reiki, we've got things like meditation, we've got things like breath work. All these things that can be extremely valuable to a client, you wouldn't actually use if you were following the traditional coaching education pathway, because they would advise you to not use those things. But just because someone's got a certificate and they've sat through training doesn't mean they're a good coach. I've seen them. There's people that have spent 10 years gaining these, what they believe to be official certificates, when essentially all they're doing is paying their money to a company because they feel like the certificates in themselves are the value. But the training that they received obviously wasn't necessarily, in some scenarios, of a high standard, because I didn't believe their coaching to be adequate, even at a very superior level. So if somebody wants to try and pitch their coaching services to you and they tell you that they've got 28 coaching qualifications in the most advanced level possible, that doesn't mean anything until they sit down in front of you and have a discovery call and show you their coaching, and you actually experience a powerful conversation that allows you to have realizations and breakthroughs and get clarity and anything that you want to achieve through a coaching session. That's what you should determine a good coach by. Same with length of experience in the field. Now, I know that at the beginning of this video, I quoted that I've been in there for 7 years. I didn't say that I've been there for 7 years and that makes me better. It's just because I've said I've been there for 7 years and I know a lot about the industry. In fact, being here for 7 years has made me a worse coach, because obviously my training was so long ago and I've been focusing so much on the business that actually I needed a refresher. And right now I'm going through another coaching training, not for the certificate, but for the value that it brings. And the certificate as well, because look, there is value in having the certificate, because most people have a limiting belief that there is a certain traditional pathway that everyone must go through. You've seen it time and time again, right? You have to go to university in order to get a job. You've heard that one. And most people believe that one, but that's not the case. I didn't go to university and I built a $25 million business. It's the same with the coaching. But it's nice to have those qualifications as well at the same time. I'm not saying they're pointless, because what you can do is you can feed into people's belief system by saying, I know that you want reassurance, and I know that you want to see these credentials. And although I personally know they don't mean much, I'm going to get them anyway, just to show you that I follow the pathway that feels right for you as an individual, to tap into their belief system and allow things to feel congruent for them. But going back to what I was mentioning, you could have been a coach for 20 years and be awful. And I've seen that. If you passed your driving test 10 years ago and you did your driving test again today, you'd probably fail. You've forgotten majority of the fundamentals of how to actually drive safely, and you just do it on autopilot now. And you picked up bad habits along the way as well. So sometimes there could be a 21-year-old coach who hasn't got a qualification, that just intuitively understands human psychology very well and has done some coach training to learn powerful tools, techniques, models, and frameworks, but doesn't necessarily have the traditional accreditations and hasn't been doing it that long, that's a better coach than someone that's been doing it for 30 years with every credential under the sun. And this is the truth, God's honest truth. So next one, let's talk about the fake business gurus. There's an interesting balance here, because I want to hold my hands up and I want to say that there was an element of faking it until you make it that I applied. But I don't like to see it like that. I like to see it as be it until you see it. We talk a lot about identity in coaching, and identity is what dictates pretty much everything else around us. If we believe we are a certain person in a certain role, then we'll find that our actions and our behavior and our values and our beliefs will fall in line with that identity. Even our environment will find ourselves in different places. So before you're there, you need to take yourself there. And there is an element of stretching who you are. And there is an element of becoming resourceful to get your business off the ground. And I'll share some completely honest stories with you. There's been times where I was first getting started in coaching and I was living in the worst flat block you could ever imagine. It was when I'd come out of rehab. I was on supported housing benefit. So I was on benefits, right, as a life coach. And I'd sometimes have to step over heroin addicts in order to get to my front door. But of course, I'm not going to take clients there. I'm going to take them to a local co-working space or a local Costa coffee shop. And I'm not going to tell them about where I live. And that's not me being dishonest and not being authentic. That's me being strategic and not highlighting things that are obviously going to jeopardize my chances of building trust with somebody. There was something that was a little bit more unethical, but I become resourceful, where I had an opportunity to go in the local newspaper at the time in Portsmouth. And I hadn't long come out of prison and rehab, and I didn't own a suit anymore. I didn't have a suit. And in all honesty, I couldn't afford a suit. So I went to Next, I bought a suit, I turned up to the photo shoot the next day, and I got all the photos, and the next day I returned the suit. Now I want to hold my hands up, because there is this element of being resourceful, being it until you see it, and doing everything you can to put yourself in a position that's going to allow you to have a better life. As long as you're not lying and being inauthentic, there is a balancing act where I believe that is something you should do. However, there are business gurus out there that are exploiting people, and they're taking it to a complete other end of the spectrum, where they are faking it entirely to make it. And what that means is they are pretending they have certain results so that you believe they have those results and pay them to help them get the same results. And then in turn, they start earning money, which actually does show that they've got some money, and the loop kind of continues to go round. But what happens is there's no substance in the middle. Because that person had to fake that they were making that kind of money, they don't really know how to help people. And I'm talking about from a business sense here. And I see it all the time. You know, people will do a $1,000 course on business or social media, and then they will then repackage that up and start selling that as a coaching product or a course and making a lot of money from it. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad idea if you do it ethically and you're honest. What I would suggest, if you were doing that, is to, first of all, take inspiration from the content and recreate that in your own way. For example, in some of our courses, some of the techniques that we teach have been around for 30 years. These aren't new. We have actually created some of our new ones, but the way that we deliver it is entirely different. The formatting is completely different. And we spent a lot of time and energy making sure that that course is completely different to any other course that's available. But there are people that will just package it up and will say they're making a lot of money, and they're not. Now, the way to prove this is to ask people, first of all, outright and honestly, like, If they're telling you they can make money, how much money do they earn? And this is where you're going to start to see whether or not they're going to be honest with you. Because some people will turn around and be like, I'm not going to directly lie to someone, so I'm going to tell them the truth. And then you can then decide for yourself whether or not you think that's good enough results for you to want to learn from those people. The next thing is to ask them for proof, testimonies, and maybe even reach out to those people and ask them directly what the experience was like. And make sure those people don't work for the company or they're friends or things like that. And research people, because this fake business guru thing is becoming ridiculous to the point where some people are charging 25 grand for a mastermind, and all they're delivering on it is a simple chit chat about something that you could probably learn on YouTube for free. And it's weird me saying this as the owner of a coaching company that delivers education, but that's because we do things completely differently. Our content is high value. It changes people's lives. It's unique, although we do leverage some traditional models, which is actually mandatory to be compliant with these certain self-regulated governing bodies. So be aware of the fake guru. Just because someone tells you they're making $1 million a year doesn't mean they're making $1 million a year. Also, think about it. On my social media, for the last 4 years, I've not posted any content. I've not put out any offers. I've not developed my personal brand in any way, shape or form, because I've been building my business to a multi-million-dollar business. Now that takes a lot of time, energy and effort. And in order to do that, I had to leverage systems, automation, scalability, and team. So there's 80 team members running $50,000 a month in ads to very sophisticated funnels with multiple web developers. And it takes up your time, first and foremost, but it's also extremely sophisticated. To make a large amount of money, a 7-figure range, you have to get to a sophisticated level of marketing in order to be able to do that. If somebody is cold DMing you, telling you they can help you make 6 or 7 figures, then they are not making 6 or 7 figures, because A, they wouldn't have the time to do that. B, they wouldn't waste their time doing that. And C, they would never be able to make that kind of money with that outreach strategy. That outreach strategy is what earns maybe a maximum of 10 grand a month. But then there comes a point where you're full with clients and you're busy in your DMs and you can't really scale any further. The people that make millions of dollars have digital products and teams and automation set in place. So if anyone drops into your DMs saying they can help you book appointments, they can help you make money, whatever crap that they're coming out with these days, do a little bit of due diligence, look into them, listen to what I've said, and go with your gut and with someone you trust, even if those results might seem less. Like, for example, on one of our courses, we say that it can earn you 5 grand a month. I'm just trying to remember exactly what number we used now. It was a long time ago. I created that course about 4 years ago. But I believe that in the sales page, the copywriting is, this is aimed at trying to get you to earn $5,000 per month. Now, you might compare that to someone that's trying to teach you how to make 100 grand a month and think their course is better. But which one's more authentic and genuine? And what would you rather buy? One that's going to guarantee to make you 5 grand, or one that's going to make you nothing and pretend they're going to make you 100 grand? Now, this is obvious. It's obvious when you know it, but it's not obvious when you don't know it, because you might get someone in your DMs and they might have brilliant branding. They might have a brilliant website. They might have loads of testimonies. They might know how to play the game. And that's what they're doing, playing the game. So be aware of the sharks, because they'll take your money. So here's an interesting one that I wanted to talk about. The people who look like they shouldn't be a coach. Now, this is a conversation that's like up for debate, and I'm kind of on the fence about it. And I want to start it off by saying, who are we and who am I to ever tell somebody they can't be a coach? You can't help somebody. You can't become somebody who inspires people. We can't. That person is allowed to do whatever they like, and they're entitled to do that. Sometimes you can find yourself slipping into judgment. Even myself, I'm looking at people sometimes and thinking, that person shouldn't really be coaching. But then I catch myself and I think, and it might be because I can see there's beer cans in the background of the video, or, or they look stoned, right? These are some bad examples, some extreme examples. But you never know. They could still be delivering value to someone that's like a few steps behind them, Maybe, they have a few beers and smoke a couple of joints, but actually maybe they have a successful business. Maybe their mindset's on point. Maybe they're great with people. Maybe they're just a really good coach, because coaching is an art form in itself, and it doesn't actually have to be directly correlated to the person. If you know the best tools, techniques, models, and frameworks, you could literally deliver that, and it could be delivered by a robot. In fact, at the moment, we are actually building virtual reality. You can put on the Oculus headset and you can take coaching training, and we can deliver a coaching session via AI. So it's a woman, it's a digital avatar woman, and it asks you questions. And then you answer them based on multiple choice, and it simulates a new question, and you get extreme value from it, and that's a robot. So I believe these people do have the right to coach. But I also think that, again, there's another end of the spectrum. If you've got serious mental health problems, then you shouldn't be a coach. I.e., I have symptoms of those mental health conditions that I'm not addressing, because you could potentially not be in the right state in order to serve somebody else. You could potentially be not in the right state in order to better serve someone else to your highest capacity if you have symptoms of mental illness that's not been addressed with medication or therapy. If you're somebody who genuinely has a very bad mindset and an outlook on life and are very negative, and you're preaching that to other people, but you don't practice that on yourself, then that's not cool. I would prefer the guy with the beer cans and the joint in his mouth, all right, to be delivering really powerful coaching sessions to somebody, but have his shit together and know that he is in a good state in order to be able to help someone profoundly with all the adequate tools and resources he needs to coach somebody, than I would somebody who is negative, bitter, resentful, and hasn't taken the time to work on themselves or get their own coach. Every coach needs a coach, because if you're not aware of all these things, you might be transmitting that and projecting that onto your clients, which means the client could actually end up in a worse situation than they did when they started with you. So that I've got a problem with. Coaches who don't do the work, coaches who don't practice what they preach. And I don't mean for forever. I don't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning anymore. I don't do affirmations anymore. I don't journal anymore. I used to do all those things, and those things helped me. And I progressed and evolved in the way that I work on my personal development. Now, one of the main things I do is breath work. And of course, I still have coaching. And I have coaches in many different areas. I have a business coach, I have a life coach, and I have a sleep coach, right? So I'm always constantly learning and developing. And I believe that is something that a coach should always be doing. Taking the approach of lifetime learning, being somebody that's always there to learn the next thing about themselves so that they can then share that with the person beneath them. And not beneath them in superiority, but beneath them in terms of their level of awareness around certain modalities or tools that are available to people. Like, you guys might be watching this, so this might be the first time you've ever heard of breathwork. Breathwork is incredible. And I'll do a whole other conversation about breathwork. In fact, I have a video on breathwork already, so check that one out. I forgot that I did that, and I actually did that one as a vlog style, so you get to see me have breathwork done on me. But that's something that you need to experience to really understand anyway. Also, before I forget, don't forget, if you're enjoying this video so far, drop me a subscribe and a comment. This is a new channel, and I'm looking to get a little bit more reach, so I really appreciate that. And any comments below as well, what you thought of this video, what you agreed with, what you didn't. Success rates of a coach, the question that everybody asks: what people are actually successful? And of course, some people come to me in word am I looking for? They try and accuse me, and in more of a confrontation in type way of, what success rate do your coaches have? And I tell them I couldn't tell you, because a number of things. One, some people are very private and they don't tell you what they do, right? Two, sometimes someone can be looking on the surface like they're absolutely crushing it and have websites and branding and social media content and courses launched, but not actually making any money, because I know those people. They've dropped into my DMs like, help. And you've also got people that you just would underestimate, and they've got nothing really going on, but you find out they're making multiple six figures, charging like 10, 15 grand for clients. And we have had 5,750 clients, and we don't have the capacity at this point to ask every single one of them how they're getting on. But I can speculate and guess and give you a rough, I can give you a percentage, but I can tell you roughly a few of the buckets that people fall into. Now, some people, hold my hands up to it, will do nothing with it whatsoever. They'll open their top drawer, they'll put their certificate in it, they'll close it, and they'll look forward to launching their coaching business next week. But then the kids start screaming, stress starts coming in about something else, they go back to work, their friends start talking about all sorts of other things that are unrelated to coaching. And they might even mention the fact they want to become a coach, and their friends say, oh, why wouldn't you want to do that? Oh, I would hate to do that. Oh, God. And before you know it, they don't do anything with it. That happens frequently. Oh my God, that was nice. It was green tea with honey, but it was thick honey and it settled to the bottom. And that was the last bit. So I pretty much had a gulp full of honey there. A lot of people do nothing with their qualification, and that's nothing to do with our training. The training we provide to them is first class, but they have to apply it, and have to be ready for it. And there's a lot of fear that surrounds it. There's self-belief that they have to create within them in order to be able to put themselves out there. There's the imposter syndrome of feeling like they're, not good and everyone's going to find them out as a fraud at any moment. And there's what will my boss and what will my friends think. And there's also this fear of changing as an identity and will I like it, will I not? And also the fear of failure and fear of success. There's a lot, which is why I said every coach needs a coach, but not everybody's prepared to do that work as well. There's a lot of work that's involved with building a coaching business because there's two parts of it. There's becoming a coach, and what that means is learning how to coach people. And then there's building a coaching business, and what that means is getting clients. Now, they are, I don't know if I'm using this word correctly, mutually exclusive, or they're not mutually exclusive. And what I think that means is one doesn't come with the other. If you are an amazing coach, that doesn't mean you're going to have lots of clients. Remember, I've already spoken about that. I actually know a lot of amazing coaches that don't make much money because they don't know how to market themselves, or they're too scared to even dare to start, So a lot of coaches don't do anything with it. There's a proportion of coaches that will start and they're not consistent enough to see the exponential growth curve that happens. What happens is there's the learning phase, right? And there's the testing and tweaking and the refining. And there's some wins that come along with that. And there's this initial excitement. You get clients, you're making money, you're close to your full-time salary. You're like, wow, I could leave my job soon. But then there's this plateau because usually they've stopped learning at this point and they think they've got it all sussed out, or they become complacent with the things they need to do to build their business. And because of that plateau, they see things aren't working and it demotivates them, and then they start to go in a downward spiral. And then what happens is eventually those people stop and they revert back to what they know, because that's where their comfort zone is, which is their traditional job. It's like when you're becoming a new coach, it's like you're walking on a conveyor belt with a big elastic band strapped around your stomach, right? And you're walking and you're walking and you're walking, and the tension is just trying to pull you back. And when you're building a coaching business, all your friends, all your colleagues, they're all behind you, and that's what you know, and that's what you've done for the last 20 or 30 years. And that seems so easy. And in front of you is this big, massive darkness that you don't understand. It's unfamiliar, it's uncertain, it's scary. And this resistance of this elastic band wants to pull you back, right? But for some people will continue to learn. They'll tweak and refine and test things, and they'll get back on that upward trajectory, and they will start to see crazy results. And as they push through the resistance, what happens with elastic when it's put to strain? It snaps and it propels that person forward. Now, to become that person who is prepared to sit through the lows is someone who has a good mindset, which means the same sort of people that have their own coach. It's like with trading, right? I don't know if you know much about trading. I don't particularly myself. But say, for example, you're in Bitcoin and you buy a Bitcoin at 5 grand and that Bitcoin goes up to 20 grand and you're like, wow, made lots of money. And then it drops down to 10 grand. And people are like, oh my God. Or it drops down to 2 grand. And you're like, oh my God, I've lost all my money. Oh no, what am I going to do? Oh, this isn't working. I need to try something else. I'm not going to do trading. I'll pull my money out and I'll go back to what I'm doing. And oh God, I don't want to put myself through that shock factor anymore. Good traders sit there and go, oh, okay, well, that'll change again soon anyway tomorrow, because it goes like this. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. If it goes down, they don't care because they know it'll go back up. And that's a mindset. And it's the same with your business. Some days are awful, Some days you might get a customer complaint that really just makes you like, that taps into all your deep insecurities about not being enough and not being good and questioning if you're, the right type of person for this role, and you want to give it all up. And other days, you sign loads of clients, you get great testimonies, you hear about breakthroughs that are happening, opportunities are coming through your door, like podcasts or speaking on stage, and you're like, wow, this is incredible. But what I will say is I want to go back to that exponential growth curve. So what happens is that the learning phase is pretty flat. Then it starts to peak and you get some results. Then there's a bit of a plateau stage, like plateau, which means flat line, usually because people become a little bit complacent and they don't really know what the next step is, unless they reinvest into their education, reinvest into their own coach, because there'll be two things that are holding them back at this stage. What is the mindset that I need to take myself to the next level? And what is the business strategy I need to take myself to the next level? Because what got you here won't get you there. And for the people that do push to the next level can make millions and millions of dollars. And I've seen it. I know people that are making $10 million a month. Just hear what I just said there. $10 million a month. That's $120 million a year. That's more than any CEO has made in history, probably. Yeah, it might be. We live in a day and age where we have access to things like, of course, the internet that allow us to push our products far and wide throughout the world with a click of a button. And we also have access to create products that are digital assets that can be sold as many times as we want, to as many people as we want, for as much money as we want. And like I said earlier, it's unregulated, so you make the rules. So there are people on every end of the spectrum, from people that do nothing, from people that don't get results, from people that give up, and for people that make millions of dollars. And of course, there's people every stage in between. There's people with comfortable $5,000 months, and some people don't want to grow and build a huge empire. Some people want a lifestyle business. I've spoken to some people and I'm like, right, you've done amazingly. When you're ready to level up? And they're like, do you know what? I'm pretty happy where I'm at right now. Like, I've got enough clients to be able to pay the bills and do this and that and the other. Depends who I'm speaking to. It happens often. Might be someone in Bali who just loves to spend most of their day at the beach or at coffee shops and just do a bit of work and have a couple of client calls in the evening in UK time. And that's what they want to do. They want to chill. Or there might be, someone back in the UK who just wants to spend more time with their kids and they want to do it 2 days a week. There's obviously the other end of the spectrum again, where there's 25-year-old men that are like, I want to make millions. And it really depends what you want and what you're prepared to put into it to get those results. The results are not determined by the qualification that you get or the training provider you use. The results are based on you as a coach and what you're prepared to do to invest in yourself. And I don't just mean financially and buying courses, but I mean into your personal development. And that could look like even free coaching. Maybe you ask one of your coaching friends to coach you. Maybe it might look like reading a book, but use intentional content. Don't read for the sake of it. Don't read a book because your friend suggested you to read a book. This is another top tip. If your friend suggests you to read a book, don't read it because they read that book because they needed that book. You don't necessarily need that book, so why read it? Decide what you need. What's that thing that's holding you back? What is that thing that's stopping you from taking things to the next level? And go and find that exact information. That's why I dropped out of university. When I came out of prison, my goal was to go to university. And I did a whole year access course in college just to get the relevant qualifications to be able to get me into university. It was the equivalent of A-levels in 1 year, like jam-packed. And then I went to university and I did 3 months in there. But at this point, I'd already built a 6-figure coaching business. And I asked myself, I didn't initially ask myself, I realized that what I was learning in uni wasn't applicable to my business. And then I realized what I'm doing is I'm wasting valuable space in my mind by absorbing content that I believe is out of date, but also just not relevant and not leaving much space and focus for me to focus on the things that are actually going to get results. So in terms of consuming education, and you know what, this is another point in itself, in terms of consuming education, decide what it is that you need in that exact moment, whether it's business or mindset, wherever you are in your journey, what is that thing that you need? First yourself, find that out. Then find the book, find the coach, find the course, find the YouTube video, find a friend that could help you with it, and discover that next piece of information that you need to take yourself to the next level. And continuously do that. And just create a map of what you need to get where you need to be, rather than consuming irrelevant information that will confuse, overwhelm, dilute, and cause a lack of focus. And also in terms of a memory standpoint, you might remember some of the things that don't matter and forget some of the things that do. Where was I going with that? I was going with that with education. I can't even remember what the point was, in all honesty. But I went to university and I dropped out because I realized I didn't need it. Can't remember where I was going with that one. Oh yeah, success rates I was talking about. But yeah, actually talking about university and success rates, there are people that get degrees that spend $40,000 or in America $100,000 on 4 or 5 years of a degree and don't get a job out of it, or get a job and it pays minimum wage. So even that type of education doesn't guarantee results. It depends on the person and how good you are at putting yourself out there and applying for the right jobs and being proactive and being charismatic on the interview. There's a whole host of components that are involved in being successful, and they're all down to you. So how much money are people earning? We've covered that. Is it all smoke and mirrors? We've covered that with the fake it till you make it stuff. And the answer is some of it is, some of it isn't. And again, it's a balancing act. I show the highlight reel of my life on social media. Of course I do. That's the whole point. I'm not going to post the shit parts of it. Why would I want to do that? Hey, here's a picture of me looking awful. Hey, here's a picture of me in bed with a takeaway box working on my laptop. It's not the nicest things to see. Of course, I want to show the nice parts. And I do that because I want to have an aesthetically pleasing Instagram, for example. And if you're not following me, follow me at Raymond Taylor. But I also want to do it to inspire people and show people what a freedom-based lifestyle looks like, because some people still don't know. I remember 4 years ago when I first arrived in Bali, and there was a co-working space, and I just did a story of me walking through the co-working space, and it was one of those old school open plan ones, so it was kind of outside with fans, and everyone was eating smoothie bowls and iced coffee and all sorts of, it looked very Bali, but every single person in the co-working space was obviously a brule, they call them in Bali, which is a Westerner, which is a white person. And it showed the proof that that nomadic lifestyle existed. And someone messaged me and they said, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I didn't actually think it was real until you shared it with me. So I show the highlight reel of my life to inspire people to take action so that they can receive those things for themselves. And I don't just show the highlight reel. Sometimes I show the dark moments in my life as well. It wasn't so long ago that me and my now wife lost a baby. And it wasn't just, your 2-week miscarriage. It was 5 months in, and we had to give birth to Mia and have a funeral. And I shared that, And I've shared times where I've been stressed. And I've shared times recently, actually, where after 5 years of not drinking, I had a couple of drinks to see if I could live with alcohol now. And it'd been so long that I'd potentially cured myself, but it got a bit progressively worse. It wasn't bad, but it was increasing to the point where I noticed it. And then I had an epileptic seizure. So that was something that could have been perceived as someone that was irresponsible, back to drinking, not looking after his health, not making the right decision, and not being a good role model because they've gone out and got drunk and ended up in hospital. However, I'm human, So I would recommend that people share the good parts, but also share the vulnerable parts, because it allows people to connect with you, and also share, some of the shit parts as well. So do share some of the, the random stories of you in bed with your cats. We definitely do, because we've got 3. But now let's talk about, again, you'll hear me use the word the other end of the spectrum. There's so much black and white thinking in the world, but black and white doesn't exist. It's just a very different shade of grey. It's a very light grey that's white that goes all the way to a very dark grey, which is black. And there's different people at every point of this. And there are people that rent Lamborghinis and, and stuff like that. And look, I hold my hands up. There's once where I rented a Ferrari. I was new to business. I was seeing everyone else doing it. And I thought, I'm a 27-year-old guy who's got a bit of money. I'm going to spend $2,000 renting this Ferrari today, and I'm going to do a video on it, and I'm going to be cool. And I fell into that trap. Was I being inauthentic with it? No, because I actually put the caption in it. Yes, I rented it, and yes, I still enjoyed it. So I didn't want to pretend that I owned it, but there are people that will pretend that they own it. So there are people that are pretending they're living a lifestyle they're not, and be aware of that as well. What you see on social media isn't always the truth, but I think you know that. And I think you can catch someone's authenticity by their stories, Watch people's stories on Instagram, the day-to-day stuff, because that's where you get to see what they're really living like. And I like to microanalyze as well, and look in the background of pictures and spot things they might not realize. Right, next point. Is it MLM? Is coaching multi-level marketing? It's funny, I typed in the coaching masters to Google, and Google will show you like the most commonly searched terms that go with that phrase to help guess what you're going to say so that you can click it quicker. And if you type in the coaching masters, it comes up with his coaching masters MLM. Now, MLM is multi-level marketing. We are nothing to do with any type of MLM, pyramid, Ponzi, network marketing scheme. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I have a lot of friends in the industry that do that. I've seen some people make some money. Success rates vary, just like the ones in coaching, from people earning nothing to people earning a lot of money. But essentially what a network marketing is where you buy a product with the sole intention of finding other people to sell that product, and then you get a commission on their sales. And then you then motivate those people to sell products, and then everyone above gets a little commission, and it goes down in a bit of a pyramid. Pyramid schemes are actually illegal. A pyramid scheme is when there's more business opportunities being sold, i.e. buy this product just so that you can sell it, business model, versus buy this product. So let's use an example, Herbalife. Herbalife isn't a pyramid scheme, or it's not being classified as one, and they've not been accused of it because it's illegal and they wouldn't be allowed to exist. So Herbalife must sell more of their protein nutritional shakes than they do the opportunity of becoming somebody who sells those shakes. That's the difference between a pyramid scheme that's illegal. Sometimes there's literally people that are buying a product just so they can sell it to someone else so that they can sell it, and everybody is basically just creating a business for someone to sell something that no one actually ends up using or selling for someone to actually use. It's almost like an empty, it's like a fake product almost. The product's just there for the sake of it. It's just a business model to get money off the next person and the next person. Whereas network marketing is a combination of the two, where you might sell some protein shakes, and you might also say, hey, if you want to sell some protein shakes as well, you can join my team and we can do it together. But we, the coaching masters and coaching, actually, I can't speak for the whole coaching industry. I think there is actually some coaching MLMs where they'll have like a coaching package, like a course. They'll have people selling it for them on their behalf and give people a commission on the downline, it's called. Now, the reason why we might get caught up, and this isn't really for this video because this isn't about our business, but the reason why we've probably been thought of as a pyramid scheme before is we have ambassadors and people share our affiliate links. So we do offer people the opportunity to make a commission from selling our products, but it's just one tier. So if they send their link out and someone buys, they get a commission. But it's not like they then tell those people to go out and sell it and then they earn a commission from their downline, and they're now team leaders that have their own team selling products. Like, it's just a one tier affiliate system. So we're not MLM. Coaching is not MLM. The coaching industry is saturated. Now, this is the last one. Before you leave, guys, don't forget to drop me that subscribe and that comment. So I'd love to hear what you think about some of these topics. And I hope I've done a good job of, debunking a lot of these myths or giving you a better perspective of it. And drop in the comments below ones that I missed and that you want answered, and then maybe I'll do a part 2 to this. But the last one is the coaching industry saturated? Now, this one makes me laugh because it is in no way saturated whatsoever. And the reason why I know that is because most of the people that I tell what I do, they don't know what a life coach is. So an industry cannot be saturated if the mass market don't even know it exists, So coaching is actually in its infancy. 30 years isn't long, but it's really only over the last few years where it's really taken off because of the online world, and the fact that we can now do it as an online remote working business makes it more desirable. But the reason why people think it's saturated is for a few reasons. One, there's something in the brain called the reticular activation system, right? And then we learn that in NLP. And what that does is it brings your awareness to information that you have. So if you, for example, bought a new red Toyota and you like, wow, it's very prominent in my mind right now that I have a red Toyota, suddenly you drive down the motorway and every other car is a red Toyota, and you've just started to notice them, but you never noticed them before. It happens the same way in coaching. Because you are a coach or you're exploring coaching, you will start to be more aware of the ones that are out there. Also, you'll likely be adding them on social media and following certain people, and it will feel like they're everywhere because you put them there. But the number one reason why it feels saturated is because of the social media algorithm. Now, if you go to your Explore feed on Instagram and you pick up your partner's Explore feed on Instagram and you compare them, they are two entirely different social media accounts. One will be the things that you talk about because they listen to you in the microphone. One will be based on the locations that you're in because they know where you are. One will be based on the things that you type on pretty much all the platforms, and mainly the things that you click on ads. But these days you don't even need to click on an ad for them to retarget you with that stuff. Even if you stop scrolling slightly on an ad, just to glance at it for 2 seconds and then carry on scrolling, Facebook have that data. And what Facebook and Instagram and all the other platforms will do is they will start to show you that type of content. So of course, if you're new to coaching, you're aware of it, so you're seeing it more. You're adding more people in your network to do with coaching because it's what you're doing at the moment, and you're seeing it more. And then your algorithm will pick up and it will create you a coaching world. So my feed is, of course, full up with coaches, but there will be other people's feed that doesn't have a single coach in there, not a single one. And everybody says it about their own industry. The personal training industry is saturated, the hairdressing market is saturated, the sales market is saturated. Everybody says it because that is what their world is. That is the world they've created around them, and it feels as though they're everywhere because that's the place that they've put them. But the main reason why I can tell you that coaching will never become saturated is this is obviously never going to happen, and I'm not expecting this to happen, but just theoretically, say for example that every single person in the entire world was a coach, right? When at the moment it's like 0.000000001% because most people don't even know what it is. But say for example every single person in the world was a coach, you would say that's now saturated because now there's no clients. No, you're wrong, because coaches then coach each other. Like I said, at the moment I've got a business coach, a life coach, and a sleep coach. So even right now, for every one person, there's a demand for 3 coaches, and they're coaches that I work with now. But I'll only work with them for 3 months, and then I work with other coaches. So over my lifetime, I work with a few hundred coaches, and everyone has different niches. You might want to be a fulfillment coach, confidence coach, a business coach, There's so many different things that you can pick upon that it broadens horizons, and it doesn't just become, standard coaching. It becomes coaching that you incorporate other modalities into as well. Mentorship, consultancy, practical training, things like Reiki healing and breathwork, meditation, yoga. And these things are always going to be available for pretty much every person that exists because it can benefit them in one way or another. So we've still got a huge job to do until we can bring coaching to the masses. One of our missions is to make coaching as fashionable as having a personal trainer to start with, but we want coaching to be a household name. I believe everybody should have a coach so they can bring up their children in a safe and nurturing way. Most of our traumas and our limiting beliefs are created before the age of 7 years old. So the insecurities, doubts and fears and things that you have right now were planted from somewhere. They might have been your parents, they might have been kids at school, but regardless of where it came from, it's your parents' responsibility to sit you down and coach you, support you, allow you to understand your emotions, give you the opportunity to speak, give you the opportunity to reflect and learn and be heard and seen. And kids haven't had that. It's only a few generations ago where you would get beaten if you did something wrong, rather than have someone sat next to you and say, "What's the matter? Why are you behaving like this? Is something wrong? Is there anything I can help you with?" So simple. So we've got a lot of work to do before coaching is saturated. Let's make coaching saturated, because the world will be a better place because of it. And that's me over and out for today. I've got no tea left, but cheers.
I'm Raymond Taylor, and I'm going to show you how to build a coaching business from scratch.